G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories including past experiences and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection podcast. On today's episode, I am joined from James, England, all the way from Alaska. How you going, mate?
Doing well, sir, and yourself?
Yeah, good. Just finished work and, like I said to you, I thought I'd finally get you on the podcast. We've chatted about it for a while and, you know, You've had some pretty cool hunting adventures and you live in a pretty cool spot that I think people would love to hear about and hear about some of your adventures and hunting and fishing adventures. So you catch some cool stuff as well as shoot some cool stuff and see some cool stuff. So I'm pretty jealous of where you live. So just,
hey, well, I mean, ditto on that, my man. There's a lot of things I want to do in your neck of the woods too.
Definitely do it, man. Definitely do it. It's a bit cheaper the other way around, I reckon, for you guys to come down
Probably
here.
so. Yeah.
Especially with the exchange rate. It works out better for you.
Yeah, a little bit better for us.
So tell people where you actually are in Alaska.
Yeah, so I am located on Prince of Wales, which is this pretty remote island in southeast Alaska. The closest... call it legitimate airport. We have a little airfield on the island, but the closest airport is a 30-minute flight or a 3-hour ferry. We're not connected to the rest of the country by any road service, so you're either flying in or boating in to get here.
That's crazy. How big is Prince of Wales Island compared to? What would you compare it to?
I believe it's somewhere in the range of 15,000 square mile island. So it is a relatively large island, but you're looking at probably in the wintertime, 4,000 to 5,000 occupants on the entire island. And let's be honest here, that's probably a high number for being legitimate.
Yeah, wow, that's insane, especially for, you know, that neck. Well, not that neck of the woods, but you know, the North American continent. It's pretty.
For sure.
Like it has heaps of people compared to Australia anyway. You know, I was telling someone today that, you know, Australia is the same landmass as the US, yet we've got the population of California, actually less than California. And that
which is insane to think about.
You know, my state is bigger than Texas, so South Australia I'm in, and we have 1.1 million population. And we're bigger than Texas.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So a lot of people would have heard of Prince of Wales Island, you know, through Meat Eater, and is it an Alone film there as well in a few of the seasons?
He's done some episodes here, yeah.
Yeah, and Alone, the survival show. Is that Prince of Wales Island as well?
You know, I know they've done some filming here, but I don't know how regularly they do that here. There's a show, Port Protection. You can see it on the Discovery Channel. That's a big one here, and that's filmed on the northern tip of the island to this super remote, you know, outpost, and it's a 3-hour drive on the road service. Like you can get there pretty easy from here.
Where is Prince of Wales Island? If you're looking at a map of North America.
So the way, so I'm not originally from here. I actually moved here from Virginia about 5 years ago. And when I moved here, they said, you know, make a upside down gun if you're looking at the state. So if you're looking at it, upside down gun, and it's on the tip of your thumb is where Prince of Wales is in the chain of Alaska.
Okay, yeah, beautiful. That's cool. It's pretty remote. I'm looking at it here on the map here. Remote, it's crazy. So how did you end up going to Prince of Wales from where you grew up?
So I'm originally from the southern part of Virginia. It's where I grew up hunting and fishing. My grandfather actually was coming up to Alaska, 3 decades now. Did some guide fishing for Orvis and just fishing for his own pleasure. And here probably about 10 years ago, my uncle moved up here. So he lived up here for about 5 years, and I'd yet to visit. And it was in 2018, I graduated school, and I said, all right, I'm gonna make a trip up here. So I'll do some bear hunting and deer hunting. And funny enough, I come up here and I saw one bear for 10 days of hunting here. I came early. I didn't really come later. Like the bear really hadn't quite woken up yet. And I saw one bear, and it was like, maybe 100-pound bear, like definitely in the cub range. And I'm just like, so blown away by this place. Then I told him when I was leaving, I was like, I will move up here in a year. I will be living on this island in a year. And about 6.5 months later, I packed all my stuff in a pickup truck, drove across country, and barged all my stuff to the island.
That's crazy. That's awesome, but crazy. So where did your hunting and fishing start? I'm assuming that your family got you into it?
Oh, for sure. So I grew up with a family farm in the Appalachians, as we will say, the Appalachians, and a lot of whitetail hunting. I think I shot my first deer when I was 7 years old with my dad. My dad brought me into it. He was a huge hunter, huge, advocate for outdoors stuff, hunting and fishing. And, I did that from an early age, and, and I enjoyed it. And then I feel like I don't know, middle school, I got into football. Unfortunately, football kind of coincides with hunting seasons. So, I really didn't get to do as much of it as I wanted to. And then I felt like after school, I was like, I've been yearning to hunt for so long. I'm so excited. I didn't really bow hunt until after college. But yeah, so I grew up on a, well, not on the farm, but near the farm. And it was, just a hunter's paradise. It was like a 300-acre, it was a winery. We had great plants on it. So obviously the deer were not too mad about that. And not many people hunted it. Never killed anything, great scoring size deer, but just an awesome place and a great place to hunt.
That's awesome. And then how old were you when you moved across to Prince of Wales Island, and how long you been on the island?
So 2019 I moved. It was right at the beginning of COVID is when I moved. I was going to move a little bit before. Yeah, right. I was going to move before, and then my plans got set back because the whole plan was I was going to move across and take the ferry service up, because you can take the ferry from, Washington to Ketchikan and then hop on a smaller ferry to come here. But COVID kicked off and they closed all the ferry services, and it was super difficult to get stuff here. And there was kind of a lull in it. And the second that, they said, okay, you can, come in and out of the state, I packed all my stuff, drove across, packed it all onto a shipping container in Washington, and then had it shipped up to the island.
That's awesome. How long does it take you to become a resident up there? Because I realize that once you move up there, you're still not classed as a resident for a while.
Yeah. So the first, it's 1 year. You get 365 days, and that's after residency. You have driver's license. Can prove that you're living here. So that first year was rough. That is for sure. Hunting season rolls around and everybody's going out and bringing bucks off the mountain, and you just got to I could go buy one buck tag if I wanted to, and it would cost me like $350-$400 for a single blacktail tag. That was definitely the trial, but luckily enough, you could buy a year-long fishing license. So I definitely devoted myself to learning how to fly fish in that first year I was up here.
That's awesome. That's so good. So what time of year did you move up there? Were you move up there at the start of hunting season so you could hunt the next hunting season? Or?
So that was the plan. I ended up moving up in June. And for residents that live in a rural community, in which we're obviously a rural community, you get federal subsistence tags. So if you're a resident in a rural community and you get your federal subsistence tags, deer season starts July 24th.
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
my deer season, it came in, July 24th. And then if they extend it at the end, it goes from July 24th to the end of January is your time frame that you can hunt. So super long hunting season. And then when it comes to bear hunting, your season starts September 1 and then goes out at the end of June the following year. So there's only like 2 months the entire year that you're here that you're not allowed to shoot a bear.
That's wicked.
So it's pretty sweet, and in my opinion, one of the reasons I moved here.
That's awesome. Like, yeah, just the footage of bears that you see, that you send me is just amazing. Like, I couldn't comprehend seeing
Yeah,
something that size being, mostly a predator running through the woods. Because, as
oh,
I've discussed with many Americans, is we don't have predators that big here.
mhm. Yeah. So it's funny too. Again, so we're in Alaska, and we're in Southeast, and if you go pretty much any direction around us, there are coastal brown bears, right? And Prince of Wales is this weird little outpost where I'm not going to say never, because this island has a habit of proving you wrong, but there's almost never brown bear here, and there's almost never moose here, and there's almost never elk here. So you're looking at a place where the black bear truly don't have any competition. They have food sources out the wazoo, and on top of the fact that they've switched it to a lottery system. Back in the day, you could used to just buy it. Anybody could fly up anytime, buy a bear tag, and hunt bear. They moved it to a lottery system for non-residents, and just the bear population has bounced back, and it is insane, absolutely insane.
Crazy. With a lottery system up there for non-residents, how long does it take for someone on average to draw?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I know people that have put in their first year and drawn, and I know people that have put in 3 and 4 years to finally draw a bear tag.
That's crazy.
But you do have good odds down here. I believe there's a hefty number of tags they give out, and it still blows my mind is that there are people that draw tags, come up here and hunt for 10 days. Hi, how's it going? I'm one of those people and never shoot a bear. It's like when you come up here early, and this place is a jungle. We're a temperate rainforest, and I say that it is so thick. You come here and you're like, I don't know how you could find anything here. And that's like how I believe. I came from Virginia, and I was like, oh, I know what thick brush is. And then you like step off the road here, and you're like, oh, like you can't see 2 feet in front of you. It is the thickest. You really have to see it to understand how bad it is.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I picture Prince of Wales Island. Like the only footage I have in my head of Prince of Wales Island is Stephen Rinella, Joe Rogan. It's just pissing down with rain, and they're just walking around and blowing on the blacktail calls.
Yeah. Which is that's about as spot on as you get for November rut hunting. Is make sure you have dry stuff on, and the joke here is you can wear rain gear and be wet from sweat, or you can wear a hoodie and be wet from rain, but be ready to be soft and wet by the end of the day.
Now, Prince of Wales gets a crazy amount of rain a year. What's your average rainfall up there?
So I think the record is somewhere in the 300 inches rain in a single year,
Bloody
but
hell.
we're anywhere from like 90 to 200 inches in a season.
That's crazy. And it's like something like you get, 200 and something days of rain a year? Is that right? 250?
So when I first moved here, the first full year I lived here, there were 9 days of sunshine. There were 9 days in a recorded year where it did not rain. Sure, there were other days that the sun came out for a little while, but it still rained. And we're currently in the middle of a summer like that summer. Like we've probably had a week of like legitimate sunshine this summer, like just absolutely dumping.
That's insane.
But my caveat is it's great for salmon fishing. That great water is what's bringing the fish in. So you take it with a grain of salt. There's going to be good salmon fishing in the river this year.
That's wicked. That blows my mind. Like we were discussing before the podcast, it's 9:30 p.m. there Tuesday night now ish for you, and I'm seeing out your back window behind you, and it's still daylight. I'm like, what time does it get dark there? And you're like, oh, about 11 p.m. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, so we get both ends of it. Nothing like up north, but we definitely have long summer days. We're looking at like sunrise, in the spring, so summer solstice in the middle. You're looking at like 3:30 a.m. sunrise, and then sunset 11:30 at night. And then on the other end of that is during the wintertime, real short summer days. So you're looking at sunrise around 9, and on the short days about 3:30, the sun's already they're setting and going down.
How does that go with hunting up there? Like, yeah, most of your seasons would be what, winterish, would it, or coming up to winter? So real short days hunting.
So yeah, I mean, so I'm currently looking in about 2 weeks. My deer season opens up. So beginning of deer season, you can have some real nice long days of hunting, and then usually you do your, like, call it the alpine season. You're going out and you're hiking lots and lots of miles to spot one to make a move on and get a shot, and then your September rolls around and everything starts to lull off. They're starting to move out of the alpine into the thick stuff, so they're starting to sparse. Days are getting shorter, and then end of October, 1st of November, everybody knows the rut's starting. The rut, and you'll wake up, hunt your 6 hours, and be blowing on a deer call the whole time. See if you can get one to step out of the thick stuff for you.
That's crazy. That's so good. Yeah. Just looking at the Prince of Wales Island hunting of there's Sitka blacktail. Is that right? Or just blacktail?
So it's the Sitka blacktail.
Yeah. Yeah, so they remind me a lot. So in New Zealand, there is a little island called Stewart Island, and it's right at the bottom of the South Island, and they've got whitetail that they introduced there many moons ago. And they're very, very similar built to the Sitka blacktail, because they're just this little jungle, dense bush, lots of rain, real cold climate. And they've done extremely well down there, but their frame is very, very similar, and a lot of people
short, thick stature.
Yeah, they're bloody cool, and that's the closest thing to a Sitka blacktail people would get down here. Just such a cool little deer. But yeah, from what I've seen with you do all right up there.
I like to do it whenever I can. My wife probably says I do it a little too much, but she knew what she's getting into when she got with me. But yeah, when I moved up here after college, I was very overweight. I was a very big boy. And I moved here and I found true passion in the outdoors, and I lost a ton of weight, and that's why that whole first year was like training camp, trying to learn as much as I could, would go with people and watch how they hunted just to try to figure it out. And then that first year comes around and I'm like 100 and something pounds down. Opening day, I take off up this ridge with this older fellow who's teaching me how to hunt. And we're going up this ridge. And at the time I was doing it, I didn't realize what he was doing. But he was using me as, the chase dog. He was walking up this nice clearing, and he had me crawling up the side of this ridge to push everything off into the clearing for him. Later on, I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. But so it's the first morning, and I'm working up through this, thick stuff, and I step out in this opening that's not 30, 40 yards, and I see this buck stand up. And I'm like, oh, what's happening? It's happening. And I look, and the only thing I can see are two little spikes on the side of his head. And I'm like, all right, I typically don't like taking headshots, but that's what you're giving me. That's what we're doing. So I aim at the base of the neck and I pull the trigger and I just watch four legs go straight up. And I'm like, losing it. Like, yeah, I got my first deer. And I walk around the bush and I realize it's not a spike. It's a 4x3 that has eye guards. And I was looking at his eye guards thinking he was a spike. And I'm like crying on the side of this mountain, losing my shit. That I have just achieved, like it was the coming of God to me. Like, I have arrived. This is my path in life, is to do this right now. So the old dude hears me shoot, so he's working up towards me, and he walks up to me, and he he lived on Prince of Wales for the past 50 years, like just true old logger, just the dude. And he looks at me and he looks at the deer and he says, "Man, that's a nice deer." And then he drops his head and is sad. He says, "Man, that's a real nice deer." And you just tell absolutely deflated him. And I'm like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" He's like, "I stopped to smoke a cigarette, and about the time I lit it, you pulled the trigger. So if you would have kept walking and not stopped, you probably would have shot it."
Oh no.
So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
but the absolute first deer I ever killed here is still one of the nicest ones I've ever killed here. And I was like, well, if that doesn't tell me this is my place, I don't think anything else will.
That's awesome. What caliber are you using to chase them?
Oh, so I have too many guns, as most Americans do.
Jealous.
But my go-to is 308.
Yeah, beautiful.
That one in particular, I shot with a 300 short mag. I have a 300 Win Mag. I got a 338 Win Mag. I got too many to use in a single season, but we do live in a place like that.
Yeah, you send me some videos of the rifles you have, and fuck, man, I'm jealous.
Yeah. Again, to go back to my wife, she's like, "You don't need all these." And I'm like, "Well, I need this one because I might go hunt brown bear next year, and I need this one because I'm going elk hunting with your dad next year." So, there are lots of tools for different things.
That's cool. So being a resident of Alaska now, does that allow you to get resident stuff for other parts of Alaska, or do you?
For sure.
Yep, wicked.
So as an Alaskan resident, I am an Alaskan resident. Same if I lived at the top of Alaska or at the most southern point. So, there's some places that everyone has to put in for a lottery. So in November, I drew an Edelin Island elk tag, which is considered to be one of the most challenging elk hunts in America because it's like Prince of Wales. It's vertical. It's thick. There's not a ton of elk there. They were an introduced species there. And it'll be a grind. It'll be wet, cold, lots of miles up and down.
And
But I'm absolutely stoked.
Is that one of those islands that have lots of coastal brown bears on it as well?
So they do have brown bear there, but it's not like some other places where they're absolutely crawling in bear.
What was that island that the Meat Eater crew on? And
Kodiak.
Kodiak.
Yeah,
it might have been Kodiak. They'll chase an elk over there, and
if they were on Prince, it might have been Edelin. There's not a ton of islands that they introduced elk to.
Yeah, there's one that the Meat Eater crew went up to, and I can't even. They've got a wicked story about it. They shot an elk, and then they were sitting around eating, and a brown bear charged them, and one of them ended up on the back of the brown bear. And apparently the island that they were on is just crawling with brown bear.
I would check out.
Yeah, well, apparently it's nuts.
Yeah.
But that's wicked.
I need to look into it. I don't think I can just do an over-the-counter brown bear tag on Edelin. I think it's a place that if you get one, you might have to draw for a brown bear tag. But that being said, there's islands all around here that I can go into whatever place I pick up my tag, say, "Hey, I want a brown bear tag." Might be $60 or something. Just an absolute joke. In my opinion, for a tag for a brown bear. And that probably one of the larger reasons I moved here is that I love hunting. I love it. It is absolutely my passion through and through. And you look at places and you're like, "Oh, I want to kill an Alaskan moose." Well, you go with a guide service, you're looking at 30 G's to shoot a moose. And that's an opportunity to shoot one. That's not telling you that you're going to shoot one. "Oh, I want to go shoot a brown bear." Well, that's $20,000 if you go with a guide. I want to put in for sheep and bighorn, right? Or they're not bighorn, they're Dall sheep. Dall sheep. $35,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for a guide service to take you up a mountain for, not even an assured thing. And obviously we're hunters. We understand it's not an assured thing, but dropping 60 G's on a hunt and there's a chance you might not see one is pretty rough in my opinion.
Yeah, that's insane. I love the whole system up there, how it works. It's a bit different down here. Like I've explained to you, we got no real seasons or tags on anything. One of the only things we have tags for are hog deer, which are a small little Indo-Asian species that we have in a coastal region and some islands, which is a bloody cool hunt. I've sent you the photo of the hog deer hunt I did on Snake Island, and they're a cool little deer. And then Tasmania, we have they have seasons for fallow deer, like this guy behind me.
Yep.
So that's as close as you're going to get to that type of thing. We don't have heaps of public land. My state's got no public land at all. Victoria, which is one of our bordering states, has the most public land in Australia to hunt, and that offers sambar, fallow, reds, hog deer, and heaps of other things, which is pretty cool. But it's nothing like what you guys have in the States. The access.
Yeah, no, and Alaska specifically is absolutely insane when it comes to public land. I mean, just head off in a direction and walk for the next 3 weeks, and you won't ever leave state land before you get to federal land.
That's insane. What type of travel is involved? Because I assume, or just looking at Alaska, it looks pretty bloody big. So you're on Vancouver, not Vancouver Island, on Prince of Wales Island. What type? Yeah. How far is it to where you're going to go hunt these elk?
Oh, so the elk, we will we'll either go. I have a buddy that has a float plane, so great to have friends in high places. But if we were to take a boat from, I guess it would be the east side of the island, you're looking at like a 3-4 hour run on a boat to get there, and then break out your legs and start walking kind of thing. When it comes to deer hunting, so I told you about subsistence hunting. So from July 24th to the 1st of August is federal subsistence, meaning I only can shoot a antlered deer on federal land, and there's some other regulations about trophies and whatnot. But on August 1st, state open land opens up also. So this is the wild thing, and this is what blew my mind. So I came from Virginia, where if you were hunting, right, and you were driving down the road and there's a deer on the side of the road, right, you have to be like 100 yards off the road, a lot of regulation. Here, if you're on state or federal land and there's a deer on the side of the road, all you have to do to be legal is to remove yourself from drivable surface, and you can shoot the deer on the side of the road. It's just the wildest thing in the world to me.
That's cool.
And I try not to make a habit of, pounding ditch deers, as one would say, but there's always that one when you just humped all day long and you're absolutely toast, and you're on your way home and there's a forky in the ditch over there. Well, okay, hold on, we're gonna get some meat. We're gonna punch a tag right now. That's
awesome. Ditch deers, I absolutely love it. I had a mate about 2 months ago come down from up near Vermont there, and we took him out spotlighting. So, because deer here are an introduced species. No limit, no regulation, especially private property. It's, drive around at night with a spotlight and shoot deer out of a car. And he was blown away. He's like, I know this is legal, but this feels like it's like one of the most illegal thing I've ever done.
Yeah. So I was blessed enough to be able to go to Africa and hunt before, and I kind of have a similar story. I was young the first time we went. My dad, had hunted this whole week and killed a bunch of stuff, and they got everything they were looking for. And the guy looks at him and says, "Do you want to go out and spotlight tonight?" And my dad was like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "I'm from Southwest Virginia, and you're just now telling me we can legally spotlight out of trucks?" It's like, of course I want to go spotlighting. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Because that is so illegal here. It is the most illegal thing you can do here. Like, to the point where if you're caught doing it, they have the right to confiscate your truck, to confiscate your rifle, to bar you from hunting. Like, the absolute most no in the hunting world here.
So
people still do it and get caught doing it, but
it's such a thing here that you'll be driving down the highway and cars have a spotlight drilled through the middle of their roof, as a permanent
Amazing.
thing, because as soon as that sun goes down, they're heading out to whatever property they shoot on, and they're shooting rabbits, hares, foxes. We have the only real professional hunting you can do here in Australia is kangaroo harvesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's harvesting deer and there's harvesting pigs, but yeah, kangaroo harvesting. So they have these
Yeah.
trucks, as you guys call them, we call them utes, set up. They've got like a commercial stainless steel racking on the back of them, and they spend all night shooting kangaroos. They'll gut them out, then they take them to a chiller, and then those roos get processed for meat, and the skins still get used for leather, but we've got lots of vegan activists over here. They contact places like Nike, and I think I seen Asics today have banned the use of kangaroo leather, which is a shame because that was a good export and a good way for people to make money.
For sure.
And now the antis are ruining that. But yeah, you have the
On
whole
top of something that was probably definitely a management of a species that, if not managed, will get out of control. I think I was reading a thing on like vehicle strikes, car strikes, truck strikes with kangaroos in Australia was horrendous, like astronomical numbers.
That's ridiculous.
Blew my mind.
Sunday I went out for a hunt and I almost hit 6 kangaroos just on the hunt. Like, you drive in the middle of the road, so you sit on the white lines in the middle of the road because you're anticipating kangaroos coming out either side. And especially it was a little, we've had a pretty bad drought here for the last couple of years. Not much rain. So when it does rain, the rain pools on the road. The roos come and drink in the middle of the road, So we were dodging kangaroos. Like the trip where I went and shot that big red stag this year, we're driving through one of the most notorious parts for hitting kangaroos, and I reckon we dodged probably 200 in a space
Jesus.
of a couple of hours, because it's just they're everywhere. There's such a there's more kangaroos now than before white settlement, and because there's so much water and food around for them, it's absolutely crazy. But yeah, keeping on with that, spotlighting's always been a big thing here in Australia. That people have special utes, done for spotlighting. Racks on the side. They've got rifle rests sitting on the windows. But now thermal shooting's such a big thing. People are rolling around with spotlights and thermal scopes, and it's absolutely crazy. But blows the Americans away. You guys have heaps of cool toys.
But can't use them half the time. So like in Virginia, we were allowed to spotlight, couldn't be in a car and spotlight, but you could spotlight for predator management, coyotes and some other things. You're allowed to do that. But in Alaska, the rule states only by natural light. So predators, no predators, there's absolutely, you're not spotlighting. You will get so much in trouble, beyond in trouble.
You'll have to make it down here one day and we'll take you out. And
oh my God!
Let you shoot
a dream.
Let you shoot a deer out of a ute.
Heck yeah! The kangaroos. Put me on some kangaroos, my man.
Yeah, once we'll get some tags, because they've got a weird tag sort of thing. It's like I said, there's tags for deer, but in South Australia, all the states have different tagging systems for kangaroos. But our tagging system is like the easiest tags to get for the property is shoot and leave. Then you can get another tag that lets you utilize the meat on the property, and then you have to get the hardest tag to take the meat away from the property. Like that is
the wildest thing I've ever heard. That is the most backwards mindset I have ever heard when it comes to hunting management.
Yeah,
you think that they would be promoting the use of the meat?
Yeah, it's a very backwoods conservation method. Like we have helicopter culling of deer here. So you've got thermal shooters go up in a helicopter, 3-4 guys with shotguns, and they just blast the shit out of deer and out of helicopters.
Just leave them.
And
they'll
leave
be
them.
fine right there.
Yep. They'll shoot a couple hundred.
And there aren't any, there's no one in Australia that skipped a meal either. There's no starving people or people without in Australia. So we can just leave them right there.
Yeah, that's something I discuss. Like you got places like Texas have the Hunters for the Homeless programs, and we've got huge
Culturally, it's a big thing here. Like it's like I say you. A lot of people, including myself, will go harvest for elders. We'll go harvest for people that cannot or don't have. And that's a lot of the native population here, the Tlinkits and the Haidas. That is super ingrained in their culture, and I truly do love that. It's like one of the things you do when you catch your first fish of the season is you give part of it away. It's you're sharing with your community, and it's such a small place here. You really do have that small town community, and that relationship with everybody. You feel like a celebrity when you go out because it's everybody and their dads waving at you.
That's awesome. We haven't touched much on fishing, so you do a fair bit of it. You're chasing salmon and you're chasing halibut quite a bit.
My fishing friends will be insulted when I say this, but yeah, I fill up the time that I'm not allowed to hunt with fishing. I fish when I wish I was hunting.
Yeah, you sent through a few halibut the other day, and salmon, king salmon. Did you say?
Yep, king salmon. Yep. So we're really close to like the ultimate time to be here for salmon fishing. A few weeks ago, as an Alaskan resident, I can get a permit, a state and federal subsistence permit for salmon. Then I went out with my family, father-in-law, and some friends, and we dip net for sockeye. So you get these big, ignorant nets on the end of a stick. I'm sure you've seen something like it before. And we go fish around in these ponds and pull sockeye salmon that are running up, and dog's barking at me. And it's one of those things that's like, it's so much fun, and when it's good, you're like, how is this legal? How am I allowed to do this? This is amazing. Because you'll go a couple times and get skunked and go hike and get nothing, and then you'll go when it's good, and you'll stick your net in the water 3 times and have everybody can have 6. So you'll be limited out in an hour and just be on a bank filleting sockeye for the next hour.
That's weird.
And then so the sockeye really don't bite. A lot of things don't bite once they hit the fresh water. Their focus is now to spawn. That is their focus. So that's one of the reasons you dip net for them. And starting right now, people are starting to pick them up. The coho are starting to come in. That's probably your most common, the common prized salmon, I should say. All the way at the beginning of the summer, your kings are coming in, but king fishing's more like trophy buck hunting. You're doing a lot of hours to catch a fish, right? But then cohos come around, and the coho are in thick, and you're out in the boat, and you'll catch a limit of 6 in an hour, and also be mad that you're catching pink salmon. Call them humpies because they get the hump on their back. But pink salmon, which here everybody's a fish snob, and those salmon, that's trash salmon. You can't. No one eats that salmon. You go anywhere else in the world, and they're selling that salmon. That's what you're buying at the store is pink salmon.
That's what we have down here. It's all farm raised in Tasmania, and that's what they what they sell.
Which is hilarious to me, because you will. One of the reasons that we have such great bear population is because we have these huge humpy or pink salmon and dog salmon runs, chum salmon. Everything's got 3 names. Every salmon's got 2 or 3 names. And I don't think I've sent you videos yet. When the salmon run, you'll be getting a mess of me looking at 5 and 6 bears standing on a river, just plucking salmon out, biting the head off, throwing it away, and going for another one. And so they're just all day long from the 1st of August to truly the mid to end of November. These bear are just eating and eating and eating, just making massive bears. I mean, you'll see really big bears, and I mean long legs, big skulls, kind of like the big one that I sent you a picture of. That's just like, that is a trophy bear. That thing is a monster. He's ancient. And then you'll see these bears that you're like, that's only a 2 or 3 year old bear. and its belly is dragging the ground because it is so fat. I mean,
That's
it is
crazy.
just eaten so many salmon that it has engorged itself to look. I call them bowling balls because they're just these little things that waddle out into the river, and they look like their legs are about that long because there's so much belly on them.
That's crazy. That's so cool.
Yeah. So so the bear hunting is like my guilty pleasure. I grew up when I was in Virginia. Uh, we ran them with hounds, ran them with dogs and treat them and shot them. And, at the time I thought I'd killed a nice black bear, right? I killed a 350, 400-pound bear. And it's just like, I have killed the epitome of a bear. I am all that is man. And then I moved up here and, I'd gotten the bug out of wanting to get a black bear. I had like removed that from like my body where I'm just like, I have to get one. I have to get a bear. And I would tell people, I'm waiting for the right one. And like I lived up here for 3 years before I shot a bear. And I cannot tell you how many hundred bears that I have sat within 30, 40 yards of and just been like, its head's not, a bunch of excuses. It's not big enough. It's too far away. It's not the one. And then last year, spring bear's coming up. I was taking a lot of EMS courses and the EMT course. That was just the worst time because it made me stuck inside, and that's why it was the worst time. And I'm rushing to this class, and my instructors are like, why are you going so fast? Like, you have time. And I was like, I do not have time. May 1st is coming, and it is spring bear, and I'm going to be done for spring bear season. And they're like, oh, whatever. And I get done with it, and it was May 4th, because I always remember this. May the 4th be with you is the dumb Star Wars thing. And May 4th rolls around, and my buddy was like, let's go out and look for one. We'll go troll for kings. It's May, it's dark, or it's sunlight until 9 o'clock. We'll go troll around for kings for a few hours, and the last couple hours of daytime, we'll go poke around some coves and see if there's a bear. So we do that, and we get skunked. We don't get a king, whatever. And I'm like, well, it's okay. Like, this is a place that I've been looking at on my, my maps, and I want to go here. It seems perfect that there would be a bear in this cove. So, we go around, pull around this corner, pull into this cove, and at 1,000 yards from the beach, we're like, oh. And specifically, the guy driving was like, there's a bear. There's a bear right there, just like, holy shit, this is actually working, So we're getting closer and closer to it. And I think probably like 5 minutes of driving towards this bear at like a decent speed, I'm starting to realize how far away I am. And that like, oh, this is actually a pretty nice bear, So the guy turns around, the guy driving the boat, and he's like, I can tell he's excited. He's like, this is a big fucking bear. And I remember looking at him and being like, let's stop talking about the bear. When the bear's dead, we can talk about how big the bear is. You're going to jinx it. The bear's not going to be there. So we pull up and we're looking at it, and I'm like, 400-pound bear? Of course, yeah, that's a 400-pound bear. I'm going to go shoot that thing. Like, this is the bear. So we pull the dinghy off of the big boat, and I dinghy to shore, on my little rowboat. I'm a big guy in a little boat. And I dinghy to this beach, and I have to work down this beach that you can't see into the cove. So the second I get to the beach, I no longer can see the bear. And I have to work like 300 yards down this beach, and I have convinced myself that the second I make the turn around that beach, the bear's gone. Like I'm crawling over these like basketball-sized rocks. So you're rolling your ankle, you're tripping, and it's just like, oh, he's going to be gone. This is a waste of my time. And I remember I peeked out and looked, and I was like, oh shit, there's a bear right there, like starting to figure like, oh, this might actually happen. And I remember ranging it and in the cove, and in the cove, it was still like 450 yards. And I'm like, I'm not even attempting that. So I start working down the cove, but since it's a big horseshoe cove, I'm working 100 yards closer to it, as you go around the cove, and I range it, and now I'm at 600 yards because like it's going away from it as it bends around. So now I'm like, oh man, this bear's gonna win me, and it's gone. I'm never gonna see it. Well, I finally get to about 200 yards on it, and I lay down and I try to get steady, and my crosshairs are just bouncing up and down. Like I'm so jacked up. I'm not out of breath, but my heart bump, 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 just going. So I was like, okay, well, I got this far. I can get another 100 yards closer. So I do. I kind of half crawl, half, squat down, walk. And this bear is just chomping away in long grass. Could care less about me. Has never even picked his head up and looked at me. And I get to about 100 yards on it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a good looking bear. It's nothing. I don't think it's anything special. I think it's a nice spring bear. It'll be good meat. This is perfect. So I line up on him, and I crack off on it. I shoot a 30-06, and he does that, jumps up, kind of bows his back a little bit. And I'm like, oh, it was a good shot. And then he kind of pinwheels a couple times, does a somersault. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I made a good shot. And then he turns right away from me and takes off in a dead sprint. And I'm like, oh, shit, he's going to run off the beach. So I work the boat real quick. And about the time he gets to where the erosion on the beach is, to where it goes up into the tree line, I give him another one. And he goes down there. And then I'm excited. I'm absolutely losing it. This is the best day ever. And I start to walk towards him, and I probably get 3 steps towards him from where I shot. And the little voice was like, this isn't a deer. What did you just do? So I was like, calm down, reload your rifle. Let's be responsible. Let's be smart. And when he fell, he kind of fell behind this old log. It's kind of petrified. Okay, again, I can't tell how big he is at this range. I'm like, it's a nice bear. I can see him. He's falling right there. We're good. So I reload my gun. I take a couple minutes. I kind of let him do his thing. And I know the bear's dead now. I'm watching the dead bear, and the whole time you're also fighting the tide, right? So the beach is now getting bigger the longer I wait, further and further away. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to waste any time walking to the bear now. I'm going to turn around now. I'm going to go 600 yards back down the beach, get the dinghy, get to the big boat, move the big boat closer, and then dinghy back to the bear. So it'll be, less of a trip. I don't end up high-ending the boat somewhere where just fun. So we do that. And I finally get back to the beach after doing this whole roundabout thing. And I start to walk up to it. And when I'm walking up to this log that it's laying behind, I'm starting to realize how big the log is that it's laying in front of. And I'm like, that's pretty interesting. And I get to it, and I put my hands on it. And anybody that's ever killed a bear knows it's, concrete sack of Jello with loose skin. There's no good way of putting your hands on it. And I grab it, and I try to lug it over the log, and it doesn't move. And it's starting to sink in. I was like, maybe this bear's bigger than I thought it was. And the way it fell, its head had fallen underneath him, kind of rolled up. And finally, I pulled its head out and got its head up on the log. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, you might have killed a record bear. You might have just done something. So again, just like the first deer, I'm on this beach, just in shambles, just crying, just this is the most amazing thing ever. So finally get it, gutted. And it takes me 45 minutes to drag this bear gutted, 20 yards to the dinghy, right? Because the sun's going down, and it's well, I can try to quarter this bear out on this beach. And I'm currently sitting in front of a 650, 700-pound bear. And now I'm going to be covered in blood on a beach in the dark. And I already know what size of bear is hanging out here. So I don't want to play that game. So I drag it to the dinghy, just absolutely destroy myself. And we get it. I'm sitting on the dinghy. I don't know if I sent you this picture, but I'm sitting on the bear that's in the dinghy, which the dinghy is already too small for me. So it's just a lot of man in a little boat. And we get back to the big boat, and I crawl in. And, the guy's name's Ken. Ken's the dude. He has a pot puller on his boat, right? And the pot puller to pull up the crab pots, a big winch thing with a wheel. And we're like, okay, we'll use the pot puller to help winch it into the boat. When we start to do it, the bear doesn't come up. The boat starts leaning over to the bear. And we're just starting to really realize what we've done here. And so I get the bear into the boat, and we get the bear back to the dock, and we wheelbarrow this bear into the back of my truck. And I get it into the back of my truck, and I'm like, every time I look at it, I'm like, this bear is getting bigger. You know, like back home, every time I shot a bear, the joke was ground shrinkage, because you shoot one, you walk up to it, and you're like, oh, well, you know, it's still a bear, but it's half of what I thought it was. But this bear just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then I finally get it, you know, skinned out, quartered, all of it done. And so this is like my ultimate accomplishment. So I got this skull and I'm looking at it like, okay, for it to be official, you have to take it to a check-in station and they'll seal it. You know, they'll put a lock and tag on it and they'll measure it. And then you can do whatever you want with it, right? Go get it tanned or whatever. So I get it tanned, or I get it sealed, and she measures it and she's like, this is Boone and Crockett. You know, like you just killed like an absolute stud of a bear, right? And I'm like, I don't know what this means yet, you know, like cool, yay, you know, whatever, right? And she's like, well, you have to go to this guy because he's the official Boone and Crock scorer, one of the guys in the islands. He can truly score it. So flashback 10, 15 years. I'm in Virginia. I'm watching all these stupid hunting shows of like just dreaming moving to Alaska. And there's this one dude that was always on the Randy Newberg shows, right? It's just this old Alaskan dude. He's got this big bushy beard and he just shoots absolute stud everything with a Kentucky long rifle, you know, muzzleloader flintlock.
I know the
and
guy.
I'm just like this, you know who I'm talking about, right?
I used to listen to Randy quite a bit.
Yeah, so I'm watching. Like I watch this stuff, and like this dude to me is like the Michael Jordan of hunting. Like he is the absolute, just the dude, the tank. So she's like, you have to go to this guy to score your bear, and she's like, yeah, you know, just I'm gonna name drop. His name's Jim, and I'm like, cool, I'll go see Jim to get my bear scored. And then like, so she gives me his contacts. We're talking back and forth, and he's like, well, hit me up on Facebook Messenger because I don't have any cell service where I'm at, you know, Wi-Fi. And I add him on, Facebook, and I'm like, you shut the fuck up. This is the dude. This is the freaking dude that I was watching when I was 10 years old in Virginia, just like the coolest thing ever. And this is the dude who's going to score my bear. That's awesome. So I get to meet the guy. Absolute, just like the coolest time. I take my uncle. My uncle, thinks the guy's awesome too. So we're both just like, kid in a candy store, and he scores my bear and he's like, congratulations. This is Boone and Crockett. This is a great accomplishment. And then his wife's like, hey, you should show him the trophy room. And like me and my uncle are like, there's a trophy room? Like, yes, please. So he takes us to this trophy room, and he's got on the wall, he has like 1, 2, 3, and 4 world record blacktails with a Kentucky long rifle. He's got, this New Zealand, world-class red stag with this, and there's all these animals. And again, this is all because I got a hair one day, and I was like, I'm going to move to Alaska. I'm going to move to Alaska, and I'm going to do this, and that's how I'm going to live my life.
That's badass. When it comes to scoring the bears, that you have a time where you have to let the skull sit, don't you, as well? Because they're green, they shrink.
So 60 days after boiling. So you get the skull, you boil it. You're like, okay, I boiled it. All right, call me back in 60 days, right? So the skull does shrink. And so like mine, the raw score was 20 and 10/16, right? Anything over 21 is like all time. Like just you have accomplished something that no one else will accomplish for a long, long time. So mine was like really high up there. But everybody's like, well, it's going to shrink, it's going to shrink. And in my mind, I'm like, it's going to shrink a whole inch, like, oh my God, like I'll get there and it's not going to be big enough. And then I get there and he's like, well, what was the raw score? And he's like, well, of course it's going to go. You're going to lose like a 16th or like, 2 16ths or something. So I think here's my little flex moment. I think my score that will be published in Fair Chase magazine in September is going to be 20 and 6/16 was the final score, which again, I'm like, there's no way in hell I should have done that. Awesome. As the type of hunter I am, there's no reason that I'm the guy that's like, I screwed up and shot a world record, like not a world record, but a world class bear. Absolutely.
That's awesome. And then you got a similar story with your bow recently.
Yeah. So after, I'm the guy that's always looking for the next challenge, right? So I I told everybody for 3 years, I'm not shooting a bear unless it's the right one. And the first one I shot was the right one. So I was like, okay. So the second I get done, with the scoring of that, it's like, well, my only next step is to archery hunt one. And I'm like, okay. So I got in Boone and Crockett, and like, this has never been the type of person I am. I've never been the guy chasing, the magazine, but I was like, I do live in the best place on earth for me to go shoot a Pope and Young. So I need to go shoot a Pope and Young now. So I was like, okay, Pope and Young is 18 or bigger, right? So again, I did that. The first bear was the first day I hunted last year. So May 4th was the first day I went out, and that's when I shot. So I'm like spoiled once again. And then this year we went out on May 5th because May the 4th was a Thursday and I had work that day, so I couldn't go out. So we went out on the 5th, and same thing. Let's go poke around some coves and see some stuff. And we ended up spotting this first bear. And I've always been told you gotta beat a bear's nose, right? If you can beat his nose, you can beat a bear. And we're sitting there kind of contemplating like, okay, how are we gonna get the dinghy off? What's the play on this beach? What side should I go to? Do I have any cover? And about that time, wind hits us in the back of the head, and I just see the bear, kind of lift that nose up, deuces, turn around, back off the beach he goes. Oh no, right? We saw a bear, but I didn't get it. So we go and hunt for like another, run up this beach super far, probably like 5 hours worth of running, looking around, poking around, and like, all right, it's time to come back. So we're coming back, and I, got to the full point where I was like, I've given up, like, well, today's a wash, but got a lot of bear season left to hunt. And started coming back down, and not too far from where we saw the first one, we're like, there's a bear over there on the beach. And, I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, it isn't, even the other one, it was like, I knew it was a nice bear. And this one, I'm like, well, this is, again, it's a great meat bear. It's a great bear, but it's not anything that's going to win any awards. So my buddy was like, well, are you going to what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'm bow hunting. I have to at least try. Like, we both know I'm going to fuck it up. So I at least have to go take a shot at it, go make a move and learn from it, bow hunting at its finest. So kind of the same game, get the dinghy off, row to shore. I get to shore and I range it, and I get close to it. Like, the one point I'm dinging it in, and I've kind of there's some rocks that jetty out, and I have lost my reference point to where the bear is, and I row a little bit, and I'm like, oh shit, the bear is 40 yards away from me right now. Got to turn the little dinghy around and row further back down the beach to kind of get on. And I work up this sketchy ass wet rocks, crawl up it, crawl over it. And finally I'm to where the beach actually turns into beach. And the beach is golf ball size polished rocks. So I know the second my feet touch it, it's just going to sound awful, horrendous, right? So I'm like, well, if I go up, I have to walk through this stuff. But if I go down the beach, there's some eroded rocks sticking up. And I was like, well, I can hide behind those. We'll try that. So I go down the beach. So I'm hiding behind these big boulders, kind of crawling on my hands and knees, looking prairie dog every once in a while, make sure the bear's still there. And finally I get to the rock that I have set out in my mind is that's the rock I have to get to. And I look and I'm like, cool, still there. Good. It's a good bear. I'm gonna go ahead and, get on my knees, knock an arrow, get the hat turned around, just embodying the bow hunter. And I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lean out one more time and I'm going to range it, range finder it, make sure it's where it's supposed to be. And I lean out and I look and it's not there anymore. And I'm like, shit, it's winded me, whatever. And about that time I see it move, and it's walked down the beach 10 yards closer to me, and now is anywhere from 15 to 10 yards. And I'm like, don't need to range find that, stick the range finder back in my pocket, draw. And then I kind of lean forward, I anchor on him, and her, I thought it was a sow. And it's quartering on hard. And that's an awful bow shot on anything, let alone a bear. And I'm like, well, this isn't going to happen. And it's flipping rocks, eating stuff. And it kind of sticks its nose up, kind of like it's going to start to wind. And I'm like, okay. And then it goes back to eating, and it takes 2 more chomps, and then it throws its head up real quick. And I'm like, ooh, this is going to be the time. and I can tell that it's going to step away from me to run into the woods. And about the time it takes the first step, it completely turns and opens up just to an absolute beautiful quartering away shot. And about the time its paw hits the beach, I let it have it. And sounded like, throwing a baseball against a tin roof, just smack. And so the bear takes off away from me. And I'm like, keep an eye on it. I can hear my dad being like, once you shoot, don't take your eyes off of it. Like, watch it as long as you can. And it runs down this beach away from me, and it turns like it's going to go up the beach and into the woods. And it just kind of lays down. Right. And like, the last bear I shot, I absolutely wrecked it with 230-06 shots, and it still ran 100 yards, right? And this bear has now run 20 yards away from me and laid down within eyesight after getting shot with a bow. So I'm like, did I gut shoot it? Does it know what's happening? And they'll talk about the death bellow. You'll hear the bear do its thing, and like nothing. Doesn't quiver, doesn't shake, nothing. Just lays down like it's taking a nap. So I'm now sitting there, and like, again, your dad teaches you things. I was always taught, 30 minutes. You shoot something with a bow. It doesn't matter if you watch it die or not. You start a timer and you give it 30 minutes. Because with whitetail hunting, what a lot of people would do is you would gut shoot or liver shoot one with a bow, and it would run, not too far, and it would lay down because it's injured. And you'd go tromping off after the woods through it, and you'd kick it up, and it'll go run for miles now, and you might not find it. So I'm sitting there, and I wait like 10 minutes, right? And I'm like looking at my watch, and like the longest 10 minutes on earth. And I'm like, well, hasn't moved. Like, it has to be dead. So I'm not an idiot. I understand hunting bears with a bow is probably not, the most conducive thing to life, some people might think. So I do carry a firearm with me while I do it. So I'm like, okay, let's set the bow down. Let's get the rifle. Let's make sure everything's the way it's supposed to be. And I walked 20 yards up to it. Thing is stone cold dead. Never took a step. And then, so processing it on the beach, do the same thing again. Gut it, and I find the back 9 inches of my arrow shaft with the light and knock. And I'm like, this is awesome, super cool. And then I'm gutting it. And I'm like, okay, well, there's, 20 inches of arrow shaft and a broadhead in this thing. Don't grab a hold of that while gutting it. And I find like, 16 inches of shaft in the middle with no broadhead on the end. And now I'm like, oh God, like, here we go. I'm going to have to do this so carefully. So I end up, never finding the broadhead, and I'm, caping it out, getting the meat. And I start to notice that there's an exit hole. Right. And I'm like, that's interesting. Well, when I finally skin it out and completely get it cleaned up, the offside shoulder blade, I dead centered it with the arrow, and it blew through it like a hot knife through butter. And there's this perfect diamond hole through the bear's offside shoulder blade, which I'm still laughing at because, the old thoughts behind bear hunting was, you can't shoot the shoulder blade. If you shoot a shoulder blade with, a bear in the shoulder blade with a bow, you're going to wound it. The bear's going to get away. And I'm looking at a shoulder blade that after it passed through 40 inches of bear, passed through the shoulder blade, and I lost 6 inches of my arrow in the broadhead because it completely passed through the bear.
That's crazy.
So,
I remember getting the video from you. You were so excited. It was
losing my mind. Absolutely losing my mind.
Such a good video. But with the whole shoulder thing, you don't shoot bears in the shoulder. Isn't that just because their vitals are so far back that you're kind of aiming like mid body to hit vitals?
So like I've been told a lot of different things, and I'm sure you've been told a lot of different things in hunting. And for a long time, at least what I believe, a long time, the thought process was a half for a half, right? Cut a bear in half vertically and cut a bear in half horizontally. And then you want to bump it forward a little bit. And that's where your vitals are. And in actuality, in that area is the very back of its lungs. It's the back of its lungs, liver is in that area also. I've shot, 7 bear now, right? And I have shot them in all fashions: headshots, neck shots, bow, rifle, behind the shoulder. I think the best, and this is my opinion, and I'm one man, and I can be completely wrong, and someone will roast me for it, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm the guy with the big dead bear, so I'll take that with a smile on my face. Like most animals, a nice ethical shot tight behind the shoulder is going to be an absolutely devastating shot for the bear.
Okay, cool.
As is for most animals. It's like in Africa, they tell you to push forward, because most of the stuff is behind that shoulder blade and protected, in a lot of the game species. I've also shot a lot of stuff behind the shoulder in Africa, and it was an ethical, clean, clean kill. So using the right broadhead, using the right arrow weight, heavy fixed blade. You have to use fixed blade in Alaska. That's also a caveat. You're not allowed to use expanders here. Big, heavy arrow. I don't think you're going to have any problem. Like most things, shot placement. And this is also dead centering a rib on the entry, 40 inches of penetration, blowing through an offside shoulder. Plenty of arrow to shoot a bear with, awesome. Like in all honesty, this was an arrow setup that I set up to shoot an elk or even a moose. I probably would go with a heavier arrow for a moose, but after watching what it did, I would not have any quarrel, putting one behind the shoulder on an elk or a moose with it.
Yeah, beautiful. What grain arrow are you using, and what pound bow?
Oh, geez. It's around a 600 grain arrow. Yep. That's with a 125 grain 3-blade. I am 6'6", and I shoot a 31.5-inch draw length. So I do not cut my arrow shafts. I shoot uncut 33-inch arrows. And people talk about sectional density. I rather have an extra 40 to 60 grains of arrow than I would, for argumentatively something that's not, completely proven or not when it comes to the sectional density. So a good premium arrow, heavy, and my bow is a Matthews Traverse, and it is at 75 pounds.
Yeah, beautiful.
So, yeah, absolutely screaming.
Yeah, it would be flying. And, yeah, like I discussed with Dan, who I had on the podcast the other week, Australians tend to run a heavier arrow compared to Americans. Mm-hmm. I'd say the average arrow weight for an Australian compound bow shooter would be about 580 grains. But that's because we're, like I said to Dan, we're running into rabbits, hares, foxes, cats, then, depending where you are, pigs, goats, deer in one hunt. So you just want to be able to take everything you can down with that one arrow, which is...
And I think that's an American thought process also. So it's like a lot of your Magnum cartridges, they're convinced that velocity, you need that arrow going 400 feet per second, and it's like, I know a decent about archery. My dad, has forgotten more about archery than like most guys, and like truly and honestly. And like we're like, I remember him distinctly telling me this, talking about a whitetail, because we grew up whitetail hunting, and whitetail are the most proficient things at jumping strings on earth. In a tenth of a second can drop its body, like 18 inches, completely can move its vital organs away from your arrow path at 30 yards from the time that you release to the time the arrow gets there. And his adage was, a heavier arrow is more forgiving, right? So it's going to be more forgiving shooting, it's going to be more consistent, it's going to be more accurate. And also, if you're trying to beat a deer from jumping it, you need to shoot it with a 45 ACP, because it has to be going 800 feet per second for the string jump to no longer be in play. And it's like, well, that's pretty good thought process behind it. But he's also a dude that loves, his Western rifles. Quigley Down Under is that man's movie. Loves a big, heavy cartridge. And growing up, its speed does not kill, mass kills. So a large, heavy bullet going moderately fast will do plenty of damage on anything you want it to.
That's awesome. You mentioned there a couple times that you went to Africa with your dad, I think you said. When was that, and how did that go down?
That was in 2018. That was a family trip slash graduation present to me and my brother, and it is to an American, it is like so. I say this to people: Alaska is the only other place that I've been to, and I haven't been to a lot of places, but the only other place I've been to that holds up to the hype. People talk about African hunting, it's like it's amazing and it's perfect and it's this and it's that. And you go there and you're like, well, that pretty much sums it up, and it really is amazing. And then you come to Alaska and it's like, it's the sportsman's paradise. There's never a time and you're like, well, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. It really is like the best place. So Africa was awesome. I was lucky enough to be able to hunt a Cape buffalo. So I got a Cape buffalo. I shot a red hartebeest, however you want to say it, but my southern accent coming through. I shot a impala, springbok, blackback jackal, spring hares, and all the other little things that goes along with it.
That's awesome.
But the Cape buffalo was awesome, absolutely awesome. But I will say this, that up to that point, the Cape buffalo was my all-time kick-ass trophy. I am hard pressed to ever beat that first bear that I shot in Alaska. That will be buried with that bear skull on my chest when it's my time to go.
That's wicked. With buffalo, what's scarier stalking, a bear or a buffalo? The black, they call them Black Death for a reason.
Yeah, no, and Bogo. I would say buffalo. People that aren't around black bears, and I say black bear because you go hunt a coastal brown bear and that changes everything because that thing will kill you and not even think twice about it. Black bear are dangerous. I'm not going to say that they're not dangerous, but you're around them long enough. And again, this is when I get my ass not mauled on. Like, you're going to get a snap in a couple of weeks of me in the hospital because I got chewed on one by one. But if you respect them, 10 yards with a bow got my heart pumping. 60 yards from a bachelor group of bulls in Africa is still one of the most legit scary things I've ever done in my life.
What rifle were you using for that?
I used a Ruger Model 77 in 416 Rigby. And okay, so 416 Rigby, absolutely howitzer piece of a round. Had to shoot the thing 4 times, So like, again, and I had an easy buffalo hunt. I shot it, had to shoot it a few more times, never really left where I went. My dad shot one in the early thousands and just has this most mind-boggling story about almost dying and just the cluster that is around buffalo hunting, which it can be real sketchy, very sketchy.
That's crazy. Yeah, bring up meat eater again. It's because that's like
he's in Africa right now.
Yeah, he's in Africa right now. Yeah. He just posted a photo of a buffalo he shot, but he'd done a couple podcasts with an Australian fellow who guides in Africa, and yeah, he was talking about all these things that happen. It just blows my mind. They're a cool critter, that's for sure. But
so like, again, this might just be hearsay, but the way I was told is, hippos kill more people every year, but that's because water and people going to get water and crossover, it happens. Buffaloes kill more hunters every year. And I was like, well, that would make sense, because for every other hunting story you hear about buffalo, right? You're like, that sounds sketchy, like sketchy as hell. Like there's nothing that sounds good about this. So one of the reasons my dad wanted to go to Africa the first time is because there was a article in a Hornady reloading magazine or the manual, and the story was about these guys hunting buffalo and them getting charged, and one of the guys getting gored through his thigh and like flung him and just like should have died, just like absolutely the craziest stuff ever. And then the hunting guide in that story is the guy that my dad ended up going with and becoming really good friends with. And it's just like, maybe that's a little messed up, that the story that got you to go to Africa is how everything went horribly wrong and someone got gored by a cave buffalo.
That's pretty cool. It ties into your story about meeting the fella off of Randy Newberg,
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, what are the odds of this? Everybody says the world's a small place. The day I realized I was meeting Jim was the day that I was like, you shut the hell up. Like that you're pulling my leg. Someone's screwing with me right now. And then, so like you mentioned this, and this is my spill on hunting bear. So when I moved here, 5 years ago, bear hunting here doesn't have a lot of good connotations with it. People talk shit about bear hunters on Prince of Wales, and like, I didn't get it when I first moved here, but then I lived here for a few years. And what it is it's not people that hunt bears. It's people that have drawn tags and come up here and hunt bears, and they're rude. I mean, let's be frank about it. They're paying money and they're coming up here, and I get that. You're good for you. You're bringing money, to my tax base. I'm here for it, but they don't respect the bear. They don't respect the people. They're not being good, people for bear hunting, right? So when I started bear hunting, people are like, you bear hunt? Like there's kind of like you do that. And I'm like, yeah, I love it. Like, have you ever been? Well, no. And it's like, well, like, don't trash it until you try it. Like bear hunting is one of the, like, in my opinion, one of the most rewarding and fun hunting you can do, because 90% of the time you're not shooting the bear. You're sitting on a beach somewhere being like, look at that sow over there with 2 cubs. How many times do you get to see that in your lifetime? Or you go out and you're seeing a dozen bear in an afternoon, which like anywhere else in the world, people would be like, how many bears did you pass up? So I shoot this bear, right? And like I have these guys that I deer hunt with, and they're pretty, like, you bear hunt, like they look at bear hunting as predator management, but not, as, a true sport species to hunt. And like I do this, and then they're jealous that I got to go meet Jim Bachel. I got to go meet this guy, and they're jealous. They're like, oh man, I got to shoot a bear. Maybe I should go bear hunting, right? And then, so I remember this story. It's actually one of my wife's friends, right? And she, same thing. You bear hunt? Like, what are you doing? And then she went out with a couple people that are super good advocates for the sport. People that like helped me when I first moved here. And she's like, that is some of the most fun I have ever had. Like, I don't like hunting, and I had fun doing that. That's and I'm cool. Like, yeah, you got to do it the right way. So then there's this one fella who has taken me deer hunting, and he's in his mid-20s, and he is just an absolute goon. Him and his dad both have just like, they're the like, we won't shoot it unless it has this many points. And like, a lot of people say that. These dudes live it, and will shoot bucks every single year that some people that have lived here will never kill, right? And he's like, well, I kind of want to go shoot a bear. So I'm like, okay. And this is like a week and a half after I shot my bear with the bow. And I'm like, well, it's perfect time here. I've been looking at this spot on a map. We're not going to boat. We're going to hike in. I've never been there. No promises, but like, it looks good. It's giving me the feeling. So we hike in, and he's got a buddy with him from New York who's never been to Alaska before, has been on island in Alaska for like 3 days. And now he is out in the middle of BFE with 2 dudes, and we're going bear hunt. And like, cause I was like, okay, well, let's go over here, and we'll blow on a deer call, a little bleak, cause springtime, the bear are starting to move, the deer are dropping fawns, and you like the term ditch deer. My favorite term is ditch nuggets, because that's what the little deer that they leave in the ditches are, and the bears just walk along and munch on them. So we go out here and we blow a deer call, and not like, we haven't been to where we want to hunt for 5 minutes, and we're like, oh, look, a bear. There's a bear right there. And this whole time, this dude's like, I want to shoot a small bear. I want to shoot a meat bear. I don't want to deal with a big bear, And I'm like, cool. I respect it. You want a meat bear? This bear walks out, 250, 300-pound bear. There's your bear. shoot that bear. I don't know if I'm feeling this bear. And I'm like, that's the bear you talked about. You should shoot that bear. Go ahead and shoot it. Shoot the bear. No, I'm not really feeling it. Okay. Whatever, your life, do what you want to do. Okay, well, let's hike down around here. And we wait half an hour, and we hike to a different spot, in the same, 200-yard area. And we round the corner, and at 400 yards, that's a nice bear. That's a nice bear. I want to shoot that bear. Let's go shoot that bear. So his buddy, who's been hiking with us, and this is big grass flat, so we kind of have to make somewhat of a stealthy approach to it. We're like, we're going to leave the backpacks right here with you and just sit here and just hang out right here and watch. And you'll understand when everything's happening because we'll start shooting, kind of thing. So we work across this grass flat and we get lined up on it. And I'm kind of coaching him through it, like this is where you should hold, and okay, go, whenever you're ready, take a shot. He pulls the trigger and this bear just goes belly to the ground, flat, dead. And I'm like, work the bolt, get back on the bear. And he's like, huh? And I'm like, work the bolt, get back on the bear. Oh, and he does. He works the bolt and he gets back on it. About the time he gets settled, bear pops straight up, stands straight up, go ahead and shoot it again. And he shoots it a second time. And then the bear starts doing somersaults. Work the bolt, shoot it again. So he works the bolt and he shoots the third time. Bear still runs off. Moral of the story is don't use a 6.5 Creedmoor. Great cartridge, not for big bear. Just going to say that right now. I'll also catch flack for saying that out loud with all the 6.5 people out there. But
it's all right. They don't listen to this podcast.
It's because you kill things is why they don't listen to this podcast. So he shoots it and it ends up getting up and running off. And it's like, okay, this is amazing. This is great. I know the first shot you put on it was a good shot. Even if it's not my caliber of choice, it's still plenty of cartridge to get the job done. And let alone the two more that I know that he hit it, because the second shot made it start doing somersaults. The third shot laid it down on its back, and then it finally got up and ran off again. So we start walking down this beach, and he gets to the point where he thinks it is, and he cuts up into the woods, right? It's this, probably 20-yard long or 20-yard wide section of grass flat with ocean tide to the left and woods to the right. And he dips in, and I start to follow him in there, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I don't think we've gone far enough. I don't think this is exactly where the bear went in. And he poked around in there for a little bit, and I look at his buddy, who is currently not holding the backpacks anymore, and I'm like, I think the bear's up here. So we walk down another 20 or 30 yards, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is the tree that it somersaulted through. And I'm looking, and if you haven't shot a lot of bear, the bear I shot that I had full pass through with my bow did not bleed. I did not find a single drip of blood from that bear, because it just depends where you hit them. They do not bleed. So I'm looking around in the grass and I'm telling myself that, like, hey, well, he shot it with a 6.5 and you stuck it with a telephone pole with a gaping hole on both sides and you didn't find a drip of blood. So, let's go to the next steps. Let's start looking for tracks. We'll see if we can find it. So I find where the grass is wallered out, where it did some somersaults and didn't take 2 steps into the woods. And I'm like, oh, I'm looking at a dead bear, 2 feet in front of me. So I holler at him like, hey, I found your bear. And he walks over. And again, I didn't know how big it was when he shot it. He didn't know how big it was when he shot it. Well, kind of the same thing, kind of roll it out. And I was like, oh, you might have done something here today. Like you might have done it too, and just super awesome. So we take pictures, and this is like the best thing ever. So we take pictures, he posts a picture, and even his girlfriend says it. She's like, I think that's the most happy I've ever seen him hunting in his life, which I'm like, yes, I've got another person. I've tricked another person into believing, this is the best thing ever. So he ends up getting his bear scored, and it didn't go 20. It went like 19, and 10/16, still an absolute world-class bear, just not quite big enough to be Boone and Crockett. But what he was happy about is that his younger brother claimed that he had killed a 20-inch bear. Had never had it officially scored, but that was his claim that, I killed a Boone Crockett bear. And so he takes the skull to his brother in a different town and sets it down next to it, takes a picture and sends it to me and says, I think fucking not. And like his bear skull was so much bigger than his brother's bear skull. And he's like, that made my whole life. Just like being able to tell my little brother, like, no, you didn't. You didn't kill a bear like that.
That's amazing, man. That's so good. What is your favorite thing to cook with bear?
Okay, so my wife, who grew up here and is anti-bear meat, was just like, I will, like, in all honesty, I think she loves me a little bit less when I kill one because I come home smelling like a bear, because like there's no way not to have that. People say they smell Bigfoot. You smell a wet dog bear covered, and you're like, exactly what that smell is. So last year when I shot that one, I did pepperoni sticks and a lot of damn pepperoni sticks. I still have pepperoni sticks. And it's delicious. It's great. Great snack stick. I'm awesome.
Damn, I wonder if you can send them to Australia.
Oh, God, don't put any export tags on it or whatnot. Don't let them know what's in it. Well, it's probably you getting in trouble, not me, if I send it to you. So, yeah, that's fine. So I was like, this year I want to do something that's more of an actual meal than just trying to hide it in pepperoni sticks. So the lady that scored my bear actually had this recipe for corned bear, right? So like corned beef, corned meat. I don't know if that's a thing where you guys are at.
Silver side. Cool.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm going to corn bear meat. And I did. I slaved over this bear for a week, flushing it with ice water and then brining it for a couple days, just like the whole process. And then opposed to wrapping it and freezing it or pressure cooking it and freezing it, I was like, well, I'm going to jar it. I'm going to can it. And then all I have to do is pop a top on it, warm it up, and dinner's done. And it is the absolute most kick-ass corned meat I have ever had. Like my wife's like, I'm always the room for improvement person, but I'll give it an 8 out of 10. And I was like, she said 8 out of 10. I was like, I have won this game. Like if I can, and like the thing is, it was a big bear and I made it taste good. And if you can make a big bear taste good, you're absolutely solid. But that's a spring bear.
That's awesome.
You shoot one in the fall that's been eating rotten puppies, and there's 10 feet of tapeworm hanging out of the back of them. There's a reason that the law says that you have to harvest the meat in the springtime, but if you shoot one in the fall time, you do not have to harvest the meat from it.
Yeah, I've seen footage of the tapeworms hanging out of it.
The tapeworms, it's gnarly.
You
start to gut one and it's moving, and you're like, oh no.
Does the trigonosis thing freak you out, or you're fine cooking it over?
I'm not. It doesn't freak me out. I mean, I think it's I think I saw a statistic on trichinosis in pork that you buy from the grocery store, and then once I kind of got that in my brain, I was like, well, I'm probably, a lot of cases come from eating undercooked black bear, but I'm probably more likely from getting trichinosis from eating undercooked pork. I was like, well, here we are, right?
See, we don't have trichinosis. We don't have trichinosis here. So like, I ate bacon straight out of the packet, and I didn't know that wasn't a thing. And then, when my American mate from Texas came down, I'm eating bacon out of the packet, and
and in Texas, the hogs are so full of trichinosis.
He looked horrified.
That's amazing.
Because we don't do the thin, real rasher bacon. We do like similar to Canadian bacon, where it's the backstrap incorporated with like the belly that goes around. So shortcut bacon. So it's completely different to the American style. So that it tastes like ham. Like it just tastes like a thick piece of Christmas ham. So I'm just I cook some, and I'll be eating it out the packet as I'm cooking some, and it just freaks Americans out.
It's like, you're gonna die. You're gonna get all the parasites.
But we're pretty lucky there.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. I've tried black bear in jerky, but it's hearing people like Stephen Ranello, but more so Clay Newcomb talk about bear meat. Like I just want to eat roasts and try everything. And then you saying pepperoni sticks, I'm like, whoa! Like I've made a note on ChatGPT. I'm like, can you bring bear meat into Australia?
Can you bring bear? Can he mail me bear meat?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to look into after this podcast.
I'm down for it.
But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we've been going for an hour and a half, so we'll jump to the last few questions.
For sure.
Like I said to you before we started, and I say to every guest during the podcast, so people are probably sick of me saying it, but these are my favorite questions to end the podcast with. How do you see the public views on hunting? You just said that, people look at bear hunters on Prince of Wales. They're like, it freaks them out a bit. Like, what's the general consensus?
So generally in hunting in a whole, I feel like bear hunting here is a subcategory, but hunting as a whole here is viewed positively. But this also is a place where the majority of people are, they are living that lifestyle. If you're not hunting, somebody else is. We're at a place where our grocery bill is disgustingly high. And I mean, like, absolutely scare people away. You'll go to the grocery store and buy 5 things and you're looking at $100 American bill. So like, yes, the potato chips and junk food cost a lot of money for me, but I sent you a picture yesterday of a fish that I snagged off of a dock legally, that a 4-ounce fillet would cost you $75 in Seattle. And I got 8 4-ounce fillets or 5 6-ounce fillets off that. So the hunting lifestyle here and the way hunting is viewed here, in my opinion, is positive. Everybody is eating deer meat, or they're flying north or going north on a boat and they're shooting a moose every year, or there's literally everything you can do. You have your waterfowlers that will only waterfowl, and you have your deer hunters that are tried and true deer hunters. So the hunting here is positive. And then like a lot of places like a lot of tourists might not view hunting as positive when they go here. If you're coming to Alaska, there's a 90% chance you're coming here to fish or hunt on top of what else you're doing. So like, there's a joke, there's memes about like the US and Alaska. The meme always is Alaska, or even the Democrats have more guns than you. And that is the truth. Everyone has a gun here. 99% of people hunt here. Like it is the lifestyle. It is what you do here. Yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like, subsistence hunting is that's the way of life there. But how do people look at trophy hunting?
Well, like you have your big buck hunters, right? And I try to be that guy. Every once in a while I screw around and shoot a nice deer. Even the guys that are going to be big buck hunters, they're still going to get meat, And it's like you have guys, it's like the rut here. People are like, oh, the rut, and why do you shoot rutted bucks? They taste bad and this and that. And like, so I'm always the guy trying to like poke a hole in that logic. So like when I shoot I typically shoot 3 deer in the early season because I want those beautiful, delicious tasting alpine early season bucks, the primo meat. And then, I want to hunt at least one buck during the rut because it's the coolest shit in the world to blow a deer call and have a doe run, 10 yards away from you and that buck chasing her right into you. And when I shoot that rutted out buck, I typically, like my go-to this past couple of years has been spicy kielbasa's. And I mean, absolutely the most kick-ass camp sausage you have ever eaten. And like, oh, these are amazing. These are so good. Well, that came from a nasty buck that most people, would turn their nose away at shooting. And then that leaves me a 5th tag because we're allowed 5. That allows me a 5th tag to go do some shoot. My 5th tag, I'm also allowed to harvest a doe on federal land after October 15th. There are probably more people on this island that look down on me shooting a doe than they do if I was solely a big buck trophy hunter.
That's all right then.
Yeah. So, it is what it is. But am I still going to shoot my number 5 doe because it's absolutely delicious and I love shooting? Hell yeah, I am. Nothing makes me happier.
That's awesome. So how, you've already pretty much touched on in the podcast, but how would you change the public views on hunting and hunters, especially bear hunting like you have been doing?
I think just informing people, and helping, helping people like my friend who hadn't done a lot of bear hunting and taking it, showing them in the positive way. And, hunting is a great thing. And, I think Steve Rennell talks about how it is more of an oddity in human nature to not hunt than it is for humans to hunt. And I think we lose something. We talk about mental illness in our country and in all countries. And I will connect that to the fact that we don't, touch grass anymore. People don't value life and death anymore. I was 5 years old watching my dad shoot my first deer, and, I'm not saying that's for everybody, but it teaches you, 100%. At a young age, there is a huge responsibility in what you're doing and you need to respect it. But also it taught me at a young age that I will do everything in my power to make sure that I can protect this and protect what I love. So just being a good steward of hunting, being a good teacher to the younger generations. I'm only 29 years old, so I'm still, in my opinion, the young generation. But taking out these kids that have lived here their whole life and have never shot a deer before. It's not that they don't want to. It's just they don't have a father figure, or they don't have, in girls and boys don't have just someone to take them out and be like, all right, this is what we're doing. Okay, I've been taking out this past year dudes that are twice my age, and they've always wanted to hunt, but their thing is after they kill one, they have no problem shooting the deer. They have no effing clue in the world, what to do the moment after they pull the trigger. So just teaching as much as you can, being the best steward for hunting that you can, and if we're going to preach, a certain lifestyle, you got to live it. You got to hold, you got to hold your standard high. You have to make sure that you can't give them any excuse to badmouth hunting, because if they want to, they will. That's the simple fact here. But my usual go-to line is, I can't believe you hunt. I can't believe you kill things. Well, do you eat meat? Yes. Well, something had to die for you to eat that. At least I know where mine is coming from. At least I know that its existence was a great existence up until the moment it no longer existed. Opposed to, processed meat, it's super processed meat processing in our country. It's not great. It's not awful. It's not an awesome time. It's not something that I want my children to do.
Yep. So
as long as I can keep being a good steward and keep protecting what I love and help teach the next generation, at least there will be a smaller, at least some group of people going forward that'll help protect it.
No,
awesome. If you in politics lately in the U.S., there's been a big fight because they've been trying to sell public land, and I think it's been the most bipartisan thing I have ever witnessed in my lifetime. That you have your hikers and your hunters and your fishermen and your overlanders and your day campers all being like, "You're not selling public land." It's the only thing we all can agree on is that you're not going to sell this land away from hunters and anglers and outdoorsmen. And again, I'll tell this to people: you don't like to hunt, go sit and look at a bear. Go sit and look at a deer. You don't have to kill it. Just go out and enjoy 100%. It for what it is, because a lot of people don't get that experience in life.
No, that's it, man. Couldn't have said it better myself. Bringing people into it is the best way to save it and change people's views on it. And it's hunting's one of those things. I've made friends from all around the world doing it, and it's one of those things that really does not have any barriers to entry. It's like more so not barriers to entry, but barriers between age. You can be young, you can be old, you can be black, you can
Yep.
be white, you can be, it doesn't matter your religion. It has a way of bringing people together who normally wouldn't, connect on, whether it's politics or religion or,
Yep.
whatever. And I've made awesome friends from around the world, from different backgrounds, and there's just that one thing that you have where you can meet in the middle and yeah, just have an awesome time.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's something I think about often. We're just gonna, keep talking about Steve Rennell because he's the goat. But I think he was the one that said, when you're a kid, you're always hampering your father or whoever's taking you, and then you get to a point when you're going with that same person, and now they're hampering you, and like to me that is the ultimate and the complete explanation of like the cycle of life, and like it's beautiful to me. It's something I think about often while I'm in the woods. It's like I don't have kids yet. I'm planning to have kids. We want to have kids, and it's like that's how I want to explain it to my kids. And it's like if a lot of kids would be doing a lot better in this world if that's how the cycle of life was explained to you.
Yeah.
So it's just something that I thought was beautiful.
Nah, 100%, man. I've again something I've said a lot in the podcast. My youngest son, he was a week old, and I was butchering deer with him strapped to my chest. In the kitchen. He was born at the start of April. April's our rut, so he's had no choice. He's either with me or
Exactly.
or shopping with his mum. He's got two choices: to come out hunting and check trail cameras in April, or.
Yep.
And finally, what is hunting to you?
Hunting is life. I mean, I know that's like it's just the most cliche thing, but it is. It is everything to me. It is the reason that I am happy and healthy today. It is the reason I get to wake up literally every day of my life and live my dream. If I didn't have a wild hair and say I'm going to go bow hunting in Alaska, I wouldn't have met like my idol. My best memories with my father is with hunting. Some of my happiest moments and with any family member was hunting. My best friend that I met when I moved up here, I shot my absolute best blacktail buck with, and it is one of my favorite memories ever. The day I shot my world-class bear was the first and only day my wife has ever gone hunting with me, and that's the day I shoot that bear.
That's awesome.
So it's just it is life. And I know that sounds cliche, but it is. It's what is filling my freezer right now. It's what makes me, put on a 40-pound ruck and go do 5 miles every day. It is, it's what's my decompress from the work that I do. So it's everything.
That's awesome, man. You can definitely hear the passion when you're talking about it, and that's one of the reasons I've got you on the podcast. We started chatting, and right away I could tell how passionate you are about it. And I'm like, we need all, and seeing the type of game that you're taking, and
the bear a couple of weeks later didn't hurt either, I'm sure.
The bear, the fish. Oh man, I love everything about hunting and fishing. Like the outdoors is I drive a truck delivering plasterboard for a living. Pretty much the whole time I'm driving, I've got hunting podcasts on, and that's all my brain's ticking over. Is just different hunting scenarios. I'm driving in the country here. I'm looking for rabbits, hares, foxes, deer. We'll be doing 100 kilometers an hour up a freeway here in the truck, and I'll have an offsider. I'm like, oh, there's a buck. Oh, there's a doe. Oh, there's one bedded. Yeah. And they're like, how are you seeing this? Traveling at this speed? I'm the one driving, and I'm pointing out the deer.
Yeah, I'm programmed. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
So I'll say for my work, I'm an EMT.
Beautiful.
So I do that kind of stuff. So every once in a while, we have to do a run out to one of these outlying communities. And some of the coolest things I have ever seen in my life is driving probably too fast with lights and sirens on and watching bucks and does and bear walk out to the road and look at me like, what in the hell is that noise? So one of the coolest things I saw is we're going to this community, and I come around the corner, and you have your yellow lines in the middle and your white lines on the edge. And this bear is sitting in the center of the opposite lane on its butt, just sitting on its butt like a little kid, leaned back with its front paws off the ground, and just watched me as I drove by. Never got up, never ran, kind of was looking at me in the rear view as I drove by. And just to me, I was just like, what did I like? I'll tell people this and they'll tell me that I'm full of shit, that nobody else saw this bear sitting like a kid in the middle of the offside lane, like, oh, hey, there's the ambulance it's going down that way.
Now you know what to hunt out of
exactly. Well, that was my joke afterwards. I said, deer calls, screw that. I'm going to put sirens on my truck when we're going for a ditch deer.
Lights and sirens, just.
Exactly.
That's awesome, man. For social media, where can people find you and say g'day?
So Instagram, it is James England like the country. Now I tell you that, and I'm already forgetting my Instagram handle. My God, it's James England, one word, _ RMC.
Beautiful.
And that is my. Yeah.
I'll chuck that in the podcast bio and tag you in it when the podcast is out. And I just want to say thank you for coming on. It's been an awesome chat. I love hearing your passion. I love all the stories. It's like just hearing the passion and how enthusiastic you are when you're telling the stories about the bear and all of that. Shooting
for sure
that Boone and Crockett bear, not Boone and Crockett. Yeah, Boone and Crockett.
Yeah, Boone and Crockett. Yep. Yeah. Well, hopefully I can get back on here in a little while and have some other cool critters. I didn't get to talk about my caribou or some other animals, so I'm sure we got plenty more stories we can talk about.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, whenever you want to come back on, just sing out. If you shoot something cool and want to chat about it, and you want to chat about the other hunts you've done,
you'll get 100 Snapchats of it. So you already know.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming. I love it, man. I love it. But thank you very much for coming on, man. And I'm sure lots of people will get a kick out of this episode. So,
all right, awesome. Thank you for having me.
Easy as, mate. Catch you later. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable insights into the world of hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. To stay connected with us and never miss out on an update, please be sure to follow us on social media, all at Hunting Connection Podcast. We appreciate your support and would love for you to share the podcast with your friends and family. Don't forget to tag us in your hunting photos on social media and let us know about your experiences. Your feedback is invaluable to us, so please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Together, we continue growing and delivering more captivating episodes for all hunting enthusiasts. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep pursuing your passion for the hunt. Until next time, happy hunting.